Thunder!
Oh boy, it's that time of year again. That special time in the summer when the games industry comes together to show off the latest and greatest in upcoming video games. That's right, E3 season is finally upon us. Well, not exactly. E3 got cancelled earlier this year, and while it's a bit of a bummer, it's not all that surprising. The early event has been struggling lately, with the pandemic being a huge issue as well as just issues with the ESA as a whole. But not a whole lot has changed without E3. Sure, we don't have that guaranteed designated time when we get news from the whole industry, but I think developers still want to share news within this time frame. Just look at Nintendo. We get a Nintendo Direct every single June, and I don't think that lack of a proper E3 is going to stop that. Assuming that we are getting a Nintendo Direct coming up fairly soon, I feel that now's the perfect time to do some predictions for what Nintendo could show off. There's a lot of upcoming stuff this year that we know about, but there's still a lot that we don't know, and there are bound to be surprises just like with every Nintendo Direct. So without further ado, let's get started, starting with what I think is the more likely stuff to appear in this Direct. I think that a large portion of this Direct will mostly be dedicated to games that we already know about that are still slated for this year. Games like Splatoon 3 and Bayonetta 3 are major games launching in 2022, and for the most part we still know very little about them, so I could see us getting some deeper dives into games like those. Mario Strikers is another game that I could see us getting a final push since it's so close to release. Same goes for Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I could see us getting some more gameplay, but I don't think this game will get an insanely deep dive, seeing as though Nintendo has taken more of the drip feed approach when it comes to news about this game. There are still some games slated for this year that absolutely need more info, starting with a game that we have gotten zero updates on since its initial reveal, Mario & Rabbids Sparks of Hope. If the game is still coming out this year, I think we need to learn at least something about this game. Show us some new locations, new playable characters. I personally am hoping for at least something Rayman related this time around. There's also a chance that Ubisoft might want to show the game off themselves first, so it might not even be in a Nintendo Direct at this time. Another game that we know nearly nothing about is the Breath of the Wild sequel. I'm about 50-50 on whether or not we get news for this game. It is definitely going to be a heavy hitter for Nintendo in 2023, but that is why I almost think they might be saving it for its own Nintendo Direct. What I do think could be likely is maybe another cinematic trailer with a possible title reveal. Hell, I could even see them announcing new HD Zelda ports for later this year as a way to tide us over until 2023. Okay, bear with me, but I also think that we could finally get our first real look at Metroid Prime 4. Do I think that that means a full gameplay reveal? Hell no. But I have to imagine that they are far enough along in the development cycle to at least give us a trailer of some sort. I wouldn't even be surprised if we got a very rough release date of late 2023. And once again, like with Zelda, I could see Nintendo finally re-releasing the Prime trilogy to tide us over until Prime 4 releases. Beyond just normal game releases, however, I think that Nintendo is going to show us what the next system joining NSO will be. It's going to be Game Boy and Game Boy Advance. I still think it's too soon for GameCube, and everything seems to be pointing towards the handheld systems being the online service's newest additions. I don't think it's going to be like available later today, but I think they're going to do the whole thing where they're like, we're going to release it in September to convince you to renew your subscriptions again. This just feels like something pretty likely, a pretty safe bet from Nintendo. Something that I also feel is a pretty safe bet is a few shadow drops. Advance Wars is a great example of this. Things are still very tense with the situation that delayed this game to begin with, but I still feel like a release for this game is imminent. The game is to come out at some point after all, so I think just get it done with, release it right after the Direct, boom, done, don't have to worry about it anymore. The other shadow drop that I feel fairly confident about is Silksong. I know, time to get out the clown wig and makeup, but seriously, Team Cherry has said that the game was nearing the end of development late last year, and we didn't see the game at the latest Indie World. You can also take into consideration that the original Hollow Knight was shadow dropped during an E3 Direct as well, so I think it would make a lot of sense. Okay, so now that I've gotten through the more tame predictions, Nintendo is always surprising us with crazy reveals almost every year, so these next predictions are going to be my dream reveals for this Direct, starting with what I think could be Nintendo's big holiday game of 2022. Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet are still going to have a big presence this holiday season, but Pokemon kinda does its own thing. Nintendo still needs a big heavy hitter themselves to fill the holidays with. So what would that game be? Well, with the Mario movie's original release date being holiday 2022, I always felt that Nintendo would want to release a Mario game alongside it to promote it. I think that plan is still going to stick despite the movie getting pushed back. Mario Odyssey 2 is our big holiday game. I'm doubling down, I can feel it in my bones. It's been 5 years since the first game, so I think this is 100% possible that we get a sequel this year. Continuing with the theme of Mario, here comes an absolutely crazy prediction that I don't think will happen in any form, but I'll be happy if it does. Super Mario RPG Remake from Square and Nintendo. I don't care if it sounds plausible, I want this game to come back in some form. And I do still think that something is up with this game, considering that it's one of the few fan favorite SNES titles that has yet to show up on the online service. Even if a remake isn't what's going on, at least Shadow drop this title in the Direct like you did with Earthbound. Nintendo, please. Okay. So these were some of my wild predictions, but I do have an even wilder one. Sort of a one more thing. So despite what Sakurai has said about a return to this franchise, including the notion of a remake or remaster, we are finally going to see the return of Kid Icarus Uprising. I still think that a brand new game is still too out there, but I definitely think that seeing this game remade from the ground up for the Switch would be an incredible sight to see. People have been begging for this game to come back for years, and it's been a long enough time since the original release that I think a full remake is reasonable to ask for at this point. And I just think that that would blow my mind personally, to finish up the Direct and then all of a sudden you hear that classic Underworld fanfare and then boom, Kid Icarus Uprising remake coming this holiday season. And I think that about does it for my predictions in this video. I probably forgot to talk about a lot of stuff, or I'm going to think about a lot of stuff after this video and I'm going to be like, oh damn, I should have mentioned that. But I'm kind of glad that I'm not mentioning everything, because it's the ideas that we don't think about. It's the games that we never saw coming that make E3, that make Nintendo Direct so damn special. And even with E3 being canceled, Nintendo's still going to keep chugging along. They're still going to do their own thing, so I don't think we have to worry about that. And hopefully they reveal a date for their upcoming Direct fairly soon. May's almost over, and June is that prime time for when we're going to start getting news like crazy from across the industry, and I am super excited for it. But for now, I think that's enough out of me. If you like this video, feel free to like and subscribe, and leave your own crazy predictions down in the comments below. I would love to see them, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Later.